What is up, everyone? Today, boom, A Darker Shade of Magic by VE Schwab. And this review will be spoiler free, so you guys are all safe. Even though I feel like a lot of people have read this series already and I'm pretty late to the party, but maybe I'm so late to the party that like a new generation of readers is here and hasn't heard of this book. But yeah, this book was definitely big like 3 or 4 years ago. And this is definitely kind of like on the border of YA and adult fantasy. So if you're into YA and want to get more into adult fantasy, yeah, I'd probably recommend this book. But what is going on here? Basically, this book is a portal fantasy, and there are 4 Londons. Grey London, which is our London. Red London, which is like super magical London, and everything's magical, and everything's super alive with magic. Then we've got White London, where the magic is dying, it's not working as well as it used to. And then we've got Black London, where the magic is totally dead. No magic in Black London. Everything's destroyed. Magic has destroyed everything. And there are 2 characters that we follow around. One is Kel, who is a prince in Red London, and he is one of the few people in the world that is an Intari. And there's only 2 of these Intari, whatever they are, that we know about, and these guys are special because they can travel from one London to the other London. Most of the Londons don't really know about the other Londons, and there's no real way to know. Oh, also this book takes place in the early 1800s. So yeah, we got Kel, and he kind of like delivers messages from London to London so that the leaders of London know about the other Londons, and like hopefully there's like broad peace between all the Londons, because like 100 years before this book, there was like, wars and stuff. And it was easier for people to travel from London to London, but now basically all the travel's closed off. Oh, and the second character we follow is a roguish teenage girl who can steal and pickpocket anything from anyone at any time for any reason. And she is in Grey London, so she doesn't really know about the other Londons at all. And she's kind of had a very difficult life. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of her. I recognize that she's had a difficult life, and that's probably contributed to some of her views on the world. And at one point, she's talking about like enjoying murdering people. And it's like, wow, like I get that like trauma affects people and stuff, but she seemed like too crazy, and I kind of wanted like more development from her a bit. But there's 2 other books in the series, so hopefully we get that maybe in the series, because I guess she has made some strides. There's definitely a found family trope going on in this book, which I think is done very well. And in terms of other tropes, there's not too much like YA style romance in here. There's not even really too much romance, but I am told that there's more later on in the series. The best part about this book, I think, was kind of like the plot and the fast-paced nature of it. The audiobook for this, according to the internet, is under 12 hours, which is not very long. And yeah, just the plot is very fast-paced. It's very like accessible in terms of things that we learn about, like the politics of the different Londons aren't like super complex or anything. And it's great how this book kind of manages to be so fast paced and have like a somewhat complex magic system, and not having the magic system take away from or slow down the plot at all. And yeah, the fast paced nature of this plot definitely carries this book for me. Things were always happening in this book, and it kept the pages turning for me. And there were definitely some maybe issues I had with the magic system. Like there was one thing I felt like the characters should be able to do with the magic, but it was explicitly said multiple times in this book that they couldn't do that thing that I felt like they should be able to do with the magic. And I was just like, but why can't you do that? So yeah, I don't know. If you read this with like a very, very like critical eye of, everything, I guess, you might be a little disappointed. And maybe if you're reading this looking for like the most fleshed out world in fantasy, you'll definitely be disappointed. No, but like this is more of just like a fun popcorn read. And yeah, even though there's like some issues with the magic system, there's certainly a lot of like interesting things with the magic system. Like there's just like elemental stuff. There's, of course, the portal traveling. And then there are like magical artifacts and then a few other things that pop up throughout the book. And it seems like in a lot of ways this is a pretty hard magic system in that like the rules are very well defined. But the magic itself in this book is almost like a character. Whereas in other books, it's closer and more resemblant to like a law of nature, like the law of gravity. And, you know, a lot of magic is tied into, you know, your emotions. Like in Harry Potter, certain spells you need to be like very hateful and then that spell gets more powerful. But yeah, this book is a bit different than you controlling magic to influence the world. In this book, I'm not even sure. It almost feels like the magic is controlling you to influence the world. And I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but I think it will make more sense if you've read the book or once you read the book. And, you know, having the magic feel more like a real character that has real motivations within the world, that makes this book a lot more interesting than it would have been without the magic system having that sort of like unusual nuance to it. And oh yeah, the villains in this book are nothing to write home about. So yeah, again, it's interesting to have the magic system be maybe a villain, maybe not a villain, but definitely. So yeah, this book, characters, meh, plot, very fun, very fast. The magic, very interesting, particularly for a shorter book. And I'm like kind of on the fence between 3.5 to 4 stars. I definitely want to continue on with this series because I hear a lot of good things about the character development in later books. And the world itself is overall pretty fun. But I will say you can definitely just read the first book and be, you know, okay with just reading the first book and not have, you know, too many questions where you're like, oh, I really need to pick up the second book now. So yeah, it's definitely possible I get distracted and don't end up picking the next 2 books up, but I think I will. And yeah, that's everything. Like, comment, subscribe. Fantasy Friday this week will be me reviewing Malice by John Gwen, which is over here. So definitely subscribe if you want to see that. And yeah, see you guys later.